Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel, Peterisms, where I tell stories of my life and just little things that I've learned as I've grown into the person that I am today. And I brought so many meditation books, I don't even know. I have no idea which ones I'm gonna read, but I brought all of these meditation books. Thumbnail. So I have no idea which ones I'm gonna read. I think I'm just gonna kind of like go through and stop. And the one I stopped on first was Find Sobriety, Find Serenity, Thoughts for Every Day by Rabbi Abraham Tversky, who is kind of like a big deal in the recovery community. He's written many, many books, and he's got a lot of videos. There's probably videos of his on YouTube as well. So it says on the back of here, I haven't read from this book in a long time, so I'll read it to you. In this inspiring book, Dr. Abraham Tversky draws upon his 40 years of experience as a doctor, rabbi, and counselor to provide a year's worth of daily meditations filled with warmth, wisdom, and insight. As a rabbi and an addiction specialist, Dr. Tversky brings a spiritual dimension to his counseling, and to this book, Seek Sobriety, Find Serenity, is an invaluable contribution by a man who is a healer in the truest sense of the word. So, are you guys ready for this? And then we will go right on to the next book. You're like, oh my God, you're getting right into the meditations today. I'm getting right into the meditations today. And you know what I just realized? I don't know what date today is. Okay, so the 12th was Sunday. So 13, 14, 15. So today's the 16th. Okay, I've like just lost complete. I don't even know. I could hardly tell you that it was Thursday, except for that I knew today was trash day. So, okay, April 16th. Now this will probably be real recovery based, but I'm gonna try to apply it overall. We'll see if we can do that. April 16th, insult and injury. Blame has no place in recovery. If we recognize addiction as a disease, we turn our attention to recovery and avoid blaming ourselves or others. It is equally important that codependents stop blaming themselves or others for their dependency and realize that being codependent is not being bad. The wife of a man who had completed a course of treatment complained that whatever she said or did something, he would say, "You're acting like a codependent." She felt that in recovery, he had picked up a new tool to use against her. This woman had not bothered to find out what a codependent is and reacted as though it were a four-letter word. A simple way to view this is that the addict plays the tune and the codependent dances to it. Recovery from codependency means giving direction to your own life instead of constantly reacting to someone else's behavior. If the wife had not viewed codependency as an insult, she might have responded, "You bet I am, and I am learning how to regain control over my own life." Learning more about codependency can free you from its restrictions. Learning more about codependency can free you from its restrictions and discomforts. And I think that's such a great meditation, you know. And I am also, you know, I'm both an addict and an alcoholic as well as a codependent. Having grown up in an alcoholic home, and that's just how I respond to the world. As I think that, you know, like many people that are friends and family members of alcoholics and addicts are, right? And what that means is that we respond to what they are doing. We, you know, try to control situations of what they are doing and whatever. And it still comes out in my daily life today, you know, after all the work I've done in, you know, recovery and counseling and reading all the books on codependency, especially from Melody Beatty, you know, it still comes out like in my need to control situations on a daily basis, you know. And I have to really like steer clear of that. It's hard for me. And being free from codependency does not mean that you don't love someone. It doesn't mean that you don't care. It means that you set healthy limits and boundaries, and you live your life, and you take care of yourself, and you no longer respond to the actions of them. You respond to your truth inside of yourself, if that makes sense. So, you know, like I remember the first time that I read Codependent No More. And there's a lot of stories at the beginning of it. I just actually found a copy up there last night when I was going through my cabinet. I usually keep a copy to give to somebody always. And, you know, when I first read it, there's a lot of stories at the beginning of it. And the stories are mostly about wives that are trying to control their husband's drinking. And I remember there's a story in there about a woman that, like, she would buy a 6-pack of beer for her husband every day. And then she would say to him, "You can have the 6-pack of beer, but when the 6-pack is done, you're done for the day." And he would say, okay, he would agree to that. When he was sober, he would agree to that, right? Now, if you're somebody that's ever lived with an alcoholic or an addict, the conversation that you have before the drink has like ensued and afterwards are two completely different things. And I think that's where it's really, really important to know the saying that one is too many and 1,000 is never enough. Meaning that once the alcohol or the drug goes inside my system, I'm off to the races. Like, I'm not going to stop. I don't drink like a normal person drinks. Like, you know, I can remember like going on vacation with my stepmom when I was younger, and you know, she would like drink throughout the evening or whatever, and then like at 8 o'clock she'd stop and she'd start drinking Diet Coke, and I'd be like, what are you doing? And she would say, I just don't want to feel hungover tomorrow, like I want to get a good night's sleep and I want to feel good. And I'm like, we're not thinking about tomorrow right now, okay? We're like, let's get our buzz on, you know what I mean? And that was when I was like, you know, before I got sober, the couple years before that, because I traveled a lot with them to places. And I just would be like, it just didn't make any sense to me, you know? And it still doesn't when I see people that are like, oh, I'm just going to go have a glass of wine. And I'm like, I don't even like the taste of wine. You know what I mean? Like, I don't like the smell of it. Well, that's not necessarily true. Now, like red wine, I think smells really good, but I was never a red wine drinker. Now, I was a box of wine drinker, or that Gallo wine that came in the big jug with the handle on the side. That's what I drank. So I wasn't drinking for the taste of wine. You know what I mean? I was drinking for what was cheap and would get me there quickest. But I think it's important for most friends and family members of alcoholics and addicts to know that once we've had that one, like if you're trying to control the drinking, it's not about the number that you're trying to control, it's about the first one. And once we have had that first one, it's done. It's like over. That conversation's not going to be had. And so I can remember reading this story in there, and the woman was like, she would give her husband the 6-pack of beer, and then when the 6-pack was gone, they would get into this huge fight because he would want to go back out to the liquor store and buy more alcohol, and she'd be like, you've been drinking, you can't get in your car and drive, or something like that. I can't remember the story specifically, but he would end up going out and leaving, and they would get in this huge fight, and she wouldn't hear from him for the rest of the night, right? Because she was trying to control his drinking, is how he perceived it. But I remember reading that story, and at first I was like, it didn't really connect with me. And then I reread it like a couple days later, and I was like, wow, like I still have a lot of those behaviors in me today. And that was like 10 years ago. And I mean, I've been working on that stuff, but I'll never be a perfect example of that. You know, it's always like, I think it's the need to try to control outcomes. And so, you know, like, I don't look at being codependent as a bad thing, right? I look at being codependent as really, really loving somebody and really loving our relationship that we have, whether that's mother-son or husband-wife or brother-sister or friend-friend or whatever, right? Like, I don't look at that as, you know, or husband or partner or girlfriend-boyfriend, whatever, okay? I don't look at that as not loving that person or just wanting to control them because I think I'm right. I look at it in my past behaviors, especially with my mother, as like trying to protect that relationship from exploding, because that was my ultimate fear, was that the relationship would explode all over the place, right? And I would think to myself, if she just loved me enough, if she just loved me enough, if she just loved me enough. So if you're out there and you've thought that to yourself, just let me tell you, as an alcoholic and an addict, I was never thinking when I was out there hurting people with my addiction, how much they loved me. If their love could have stopped me from using, I would never have needed treatment or a 12-step program, period. People loved me so much that had nothing to do with it. So I don't look at codependency as a negative word today. I look at it as me really loving somebody deeply, but not knowing how to have the direction or the strictness within me to set limits and boundaries so that I don't get hurt by loving somebody else, you know? And I think that's the thing, is like, if we love somebody, we don't want to be hurt by them, right? And we definitely don't want to be hurt by them by what we're doing. They're going to do what they want to do anyway, right? And so it's about setting limits and boundaries. And sometimes those limits and those boundaries really hurt us because we have to let go of people sometimes that we don't want to let go of. But, you know, if we're getting hurt in the process, why continue that, you know? I think it's a fantastic meditation. So if you want to know more about codependency, I highly recommend Codependent No More by Melody Beatty. It's linked in my Amazon store below. I make a little bit of 3 cents or something off the sale of it. You don't have to buy it there. I just link it there so people know exactly what book I'm talking about. So if you want to check it out, it's underneath there. All right. Actually, let's read from The Language of Letting Go by Melody Beatty, which is her sister book to Codependent No More. It's a meditation book. And let's see what she has to say today, because maybe she'll have some words of wisdom for us about codependency. I mean, I would hope so, since this whole book is about codependency, right? Letting things happen. This is what I was just talking about. Setting boundaries for ourselves and letting things happen, right? Letting things happen, April 16th. We do not have to work so hard at gaining our insights. Yes, we're learning that painful and disappointing things happen, often for a reason and a higher purpose. Yes, these things often work out for good, but we don't have to spend so much time and energy figuring out the purpose and plan for each detail of our life. That's hypervigilance. Wow, that's a powerful statement. We don't have to spend so much time and energy figuring out the purpose and plan for each detail of our life. That's hypervigilance. I really tend to do that sometimes, you know. You're getting to see like in live action, like how Peter reads a meditation book, but I really do, you know, like I think like I have a list over there of like the videos I'm going to make for the day and the things I want to do and how I'm going to do, you know, through the day. And I think one of the things, having been at home recently, is I haven't been like, even though I'm home most days anyway, I haven't been planning out my days other than the videos I'm going to make. And I've really been enjoying my days a lot more, you know, getting up and not shaming myself for what I get up and things like that. Oh, the one thing I want to say really quick about that meditation from before is that recovery is not a program of shame or blame. That's not what we're about at all, okay? You know, when we are trying to make positive changes in our life, whether it's from, you know, any kind of addiction or just trying to better yourself as a person, to have somebody constantly like throw up negative stuff in your face or things from your past is not healthy. And those are not healthy people to have around you at that time. You need to have a support network. And recovery is not, a program of shame or blame. We're not about that. But, you know, since I have been less hypervigilant about like planning out my life, I really enjoyed my life a little bit more. Just like, I'm like, oh, another half an hour, I'll sit here in the car and listen to an audiobook and play Words with Friends, you know, or whatever. I'm not beating myself up about what time I'm getting up in the afternoon, which is extremely late, you know, and I'm just kind of living. And, it's been really enjoyable. I think I'm probably, I don't know, ask my husband, I might be a little bit more enjoyable to be around too, because I'm not so like, you know, trying to dictate things. Sometimes the car doesn't start. Sometimes the dishwasher breaks. Sometimes we have a bad day. While it helps to achieve acceptance and gratitude for these irritating annoyances, we don't have to process everything and figure out if it's the scheme of things. Wow, this is a good meditation. Oh shoot, I just spilled my coffee all over the floor. We'll clean that up. It's just literally, you guys. This is where you have to let things go sometimes, okay? I can clean it up in just a second. Okay. I mean, this is really powerful for me because I do have, like, as an addict and alcoholic, a need to, like, kind of, like, you know, micromanage everything. We don't have to process everything and figure out if it's the scheme of things. Solve the problem, get the car repaired, fix the dishwasher, nurse yourself through the cold, wait to take the shower until there's hot water, nurture yourself through your bad day, tend to your responsibilities and don't take everything so personally. If we need to recognize a particular insight or awareness, we will be guided in that direction. Certainly, we want to watch for patterns, but often the big insights and the significant processing happen naturally. We don't have to plan. We don't have to question every occurrence to see how it fits into the plan. And this is what she's talking about in here is like where I say there's meaning to things in life, but that doesn't mean that there's meaning to every little thing that happens, right? Like the coffee on the floor, right? Like coffee spills. It's not that big of a deal, right? The plan, the awareness, the insight, the potential for personal growth will reveal itself to us. Perhaps the lesson is to learn to solve our problems without always knowing their significance. Perhaps the lesson is to trust ourselves to live and experience life. Wow. Today I will let things happen without worrying about the significance of each event. I will trust that this will bring about my growth faster than running around with a microscope. I will trust my lessons to reveal themselves in their own time. I love that so much. It's so beautiful, isn't it? Anyway, I'm going to get off here now and clean up my spilt coffee. Don't cry over spilt coffee. And I love you guys, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.